In this video, we're going to talk about how to price a student loan discharge for consumer bankruptcy attorneys. Hello, my name is Philip Tyrone with 720 System Strategies. We help consumer bankruptcy attorneys earn more money for their firm. Today, I have Ken Neeley on the line. We've recorded these videos on how to use the new guidance that was given on November 17, 2022 on how to discharge student loans through bankruptcy. Many people think, oh, it may not work. Well, that's why I have Ken on here, because for the last 18 months, he's been doing it with a 100% success rate. And a common question I hear from my bankruptcy attorneys, well, how do we price this? And Ken, first of all, good to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, so I've heard three different ways, and let's unpack each of them, right?
Yep.
And I'd love to hear your evolution of because you've thought through this. I mean, you handle a certain way, right? You
Yep.
charge the monthly fee, right? We've had some people talk about flat fees. And then we mentioned at NACPA when I called you about rolling into 13s, right? Is there any other option that I'm missing?
Yeah, well, one common one that even we've tried, and I think many attorneys have tried, is just the traditional sort of give us a retainer and we'll bill hourly against it type of model. Right. So we can at least talk about why that really doesn't work. But
well, let's start with the hourly, because that's what I mean, you're right. I've heard that before, but it's always many of my consumer bankruptcy attorneys are like, hourly. I mean, it's almost like a foreign concept. Let's start with hourly. Did you try that to begin with?
Yeah, we've tried that a few times, and there, as soon as I explain how the conversation would go with a client, all of the bankruptcy attorneys watching this video will see why it doesn't work if they haven't tried it themselves, right? If they've tried it themselves, they know it doesn't really work. But the conversation has to go like this. Well, hi, John. I've looked at your case and I feel pretty confident I can discharge your student loans either fully or partially. But that is litigation, right? We have to file a complaint. We have to sue the Department of Education, and then we have to prove undue hardship. It's pretty difficult standard we have to kind of go through, but we feel like we can do it. All you got to do is write us a check for $10,000. We'll put it in our trust account. We'll bill $350 an hour against that as we work. And we hope we can finish it before we exhaust the whole 10,000. But if we don't, you might have to put another 10,000 in, right? I mean, it's
dead on delivery for a debtor. I mean, like, here's the thing. We know the debtor client, right?
Yeah.
It's just not the way they think. Okay.
So it doesn't work. Like, there are a few, the rare client, the unicorn client out there that has maybe an exempt asset that was protected in the bankruptcy that they could use, or a family member or somebody that can help them out. But it's not realistic it's not realistic at scale to do that.
Yeah. And especially because so many of the people that fall into this test fit in the means test. I mean, it's just right. It's falling means.
The problem is the better the client's case to discharge their student loans, the less likely they're going to have any money to be able to afford to pay a retainer to you. So the next one, I'll take the lead here, and I'll take you to the next one. But the next most common, I think, approach people want to take on student loan cases, discharge cases, is to do a flat fee. And that can work. Okay. So I would say it is a workable model. The challenge with having a flat fee that we have found is that it's difficult. It can be difficult upfront to predict how much work is going to be involved in the case. So you have to create maybe a tiered flat fee, like, we'll charge you this much till we reach this stage, and then we'll charge you more till we reach this stage. It's difficult for the attorney to price it out, to quote it out. And it's also, I think, a little bit scary for the debtor, for your client, to not understand, well, how much will my fee ultimately be? Because if you do this and then this and then this, that's a pretty high fee. And then if you lose at the end, I've just spent $6,000, $8,000, $10,000, and I get no result for that. And so it's a pretty tough sell to a client. It's better than the hourly, but I don't think it's the superior way to charge for this type of work. I think there's a better way to charge for this type of work.
Yeah. And I've heard from my bankruptcy attorneys, I mean, sadly, I have some attorneys saying, oh, I'll just add $500 to this. I mean, I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
You're gonna add $500 and you're discharging potentially $25,000, $50,000. I'm like,
Yeah.
there's a breakdown in value here, right?
Yeah.
And then I have some people I've heard say 4,500, right? I'm talking like a flat fee. And it's just, once again, the problem with this from a debtor perspective, not everybody has this type of money, especially these type of clients. So it's a breakdown. We got to make it easy from a marketing perspective. We make it easy for the debtor to slide in to the bankruptcy so we can rebuild their life after, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which one you want to go now?
Yeah. So let me make a couple more points on the flat fee. And I think that is, I touched on this, but just the unpredictability, but you also have several different types of cases, right? You have private student loan discharge cases that we talked about on a prior video. You have loans owned by the Department of Education where the new guidance will apply. And that's where you have attorneys thinking, well, I'll just do a really low flat fee because this is going to be really easy. We don't know that it's going to be really easy yet. It should be easier than it used to be, but we don't know how easy. So how can you say right now, today, sitting here, well, I'll just charge $500, I'll make some money. What if it's 10 hours of work? What if it's 20 hours of work? Now you're only making, $25 to $50 an hour on that $500. So it's still unpredictable. We're still learning. Will there come a time where we know exactly how much time it takes to get through an attestation process under this new guidance? Possibly. And possibly at that point, you could then have a pretty predictable flat fee that you just go ahead and, charge that and run that. But then you also have, we haven't talked about these in previous videos, but you have loans that are not owned by the Department of Education, but they're guaranteed by the Department of Education, things like the FEL loans. And we don't know exactly how those are going to be handled, right? Might they follow the guide? They don't have to follow the guidance. Might they follow the guidance? Maybe. But how do you quote a fee on those? It's just very, very difficult. So what I think is the superior model, and the way we do it, is we charge a monthly payment. We try to match that payment as much as we can to the ability of our client to make a monthly payment, a few $100s a month. And we have the client start paying that as soon as we start working on their case. Now, we don't know the fee yet because the fee is going to be a value-based fee that's going to be a percentage of the amount of savings that we ultimately accomplish for our client. And again, we base that percentage on a fair, if it's a very large student loan, the percentage might be a little bit lower because we might say, hey, if we think we can get a full discharge on your $200,000 student loan, then obviously we're not going to charge 40%, right? That's just going to get the client another enormous debt that they won't be able to pay. So we base the percentage on the amount of the loan and kind of the amount of work that we think is going to be involved. And then they're making a payment towards that eventually determined fee. We don't know what it is yet. The client knows that we don't know what the fee is yet. But what the client does know is that the fee is only a percentage of what we save them, even if that means that the fee is zero. In other words, if we save them nothing because we just get a negative ruling and we lose the case, then that would mean we save them zero. That would mean their fee is a percentage of zero, which is zero, which means we're going to refund the fee, the balance of that they have paid up to that point. But if the fee ultimately ends up being something more than what they've paid to that point, we just continue to charge the monthly fee till they satisfy the balance. Even if that takes a couple, 2 years, 3 years, that's okay. From the outset, we let the client know you're never going to have to pay more than this monthly payment. You just might have to pay it until, for a certain amount of time till the fee is paid.
Now, Ken, this is on top of the bankruptcy fee, right?
Absolutely.
So you're going to you're charging X for the bankruptcy and then Y for the student loans. And the thing that's so great about this from a marketing perspective, we don't save you any money. It's 0%. It's a percentage of zero. You get all this money back. I mean, it moves the client in to taking action as opposed to thinking about it.
Yep. Yeah, it's really like, it's an easy choice for the client to say, well, if I'm only going to have to pay a certain percent of what you save me, I no matter what, I end up ahead. The only requirement, the only risk for the client is the time they have to spend in kind of helping to gather information and be a part of this process. But they're by and large willing to spend that time, right? They understand that that's a natural part of seeking to discharge student loans, is to kind of assist with the information gathering process. And there's a lot of flexibility in this too, Phil. So, you attorneys out there watching this, you could have a certain amount that's earned no matter what. Like you could say, hey, the first $1,000 is earned even if we don't get a discharge. I think there's some flexibility, and there will be some understanding on the client's behalf of, yeah, well, I got to have some skin in the game, right? I even if the case results in no savings, there's ultimate flexibility in the percentage and the amount that's earned no matter what, and how you do that. And it's great for our clients to be able to have a comfort level and to make it affordable, right? Yeah. That's really what it boils down to. Your best cases are the cases where the client doesn't have a lot of money. But could they make some room in their budget to pay a few $100s a month? Most of the time they can, right? Most of the time that's the sweet spot you're looking for. You're looking for those borrowers, student loan borrowers, bankruptcy debtors, that have enough income to pay you something, but they also don't have enough to pay their student loans. And maybe you wouldn't be surprised, but I will tell you, there are a lot of people that fit into that category, right?
This is a key distinction from a profitability perspective. You're not going to take on it. This is not going to work for every single person that has a student loan, right? Because some people just don't have the money to pay. Like, it just fundamentally, maybe they're on Social Security or something, and they don't have the money to pay for the bankruptcy and the student loan thing, and they're uncollectible. So, it's a qualifying perspective, which you've nuanced over the last 18 months.
Yep.
Let's talk about 13s, right? Like a no asset 13, someone comes in, we talked about this. You get them paying on a 13, but you bake in the cost of the AP for the student loan into the planned payments.
Yep.
And then you exercise. Yeah.
I love this model. In some districts, I think the judges might require the attorney to track time and bill hourly and file fee applications on an hourly basis. That's very likely. I think in some districts, you probably know, if you're watching this video in your district, what will the judges allow, and what will my Chapter 13 trustee kind of allow as far as additional services beyond those core services that are required. But I think also there will be districts where you can come up with a flat fee after you do a few of these cases. You can say $4,500 is the number you mentioned earlier, Phil. $4,500 is fair, right? You might figure out that if it's a Department of Education loan, if your client meets certain criteria, it's going to be this amount of work. $4,500 is a good fee. Then put that in as a flat fee into your Chapter 13 plan. Make sure there's enough funding to cover it. And if you're in your district, if you can get Chapter 13 trustee to agree to that and the judges to sign off on that additional fee, and I think that will be the case in a lot of districts. That's what we're working on here, is getting that kind of accepted as just a standard practice to have a flat fee to do that work. That's double your Chapter 13 fees, right? And is it additional work? Sure, it's additional work, right? So you're not getting double the fees for the same amount of work, but you're also not having to sign up another client to get that fee. You're not having to have a whole new information gathering process from a different client, and a whole new plan confirmation process, and a whole new client that you're working with for the next 36 to 60 months. Instead, you're adding that right on to an existing Chapter 13 case. And that's going to be a profitable chunk of money that you can add on to a Chapter 13 case in my mind.
I got to tell you, I love this concept, especially, clearly in states where it's, or my attorneys that are heavy 13s, right? It obviously changes around the country, but I love this concept because you come in, you can retain low down. They make their payments, they're making it to the trustees. I mean, it just, and really, like you mentioned, your no-look fees $4,500, you're adding $4,500 for the AP executed 10, 12 months down the road. So, your bankruptcy is getting paid for, and then your AP gets charged down the road. Everything's baked in.
Yep.
Now, Ken, as I mentioned on previous videos, but I just want to share it again. I mean, I was at NACPA in Puerto Rico. The common theme was, well, is this going to work? Right? I mean, is this going to work? And I felt like I had inside information because I've been talking to you and we're friends. We both live in Phoenix. We've been talking about this for 18 months. I mean, this works. You've had federal discharge, federal loans discharge, private loans discharge, dozens and dozens of cases you've built out with the information we're putting in these videos where it's worked 100% of the time, right? This is where it's going. Even in the guidance, it says this is going to have a significant increase in student loan discharges. Politically, we're here. Like, it's the perfect storm for consumer bankruptcy attorneys. What would you say to them nationwide about that?
Well, so if you're watching this video, bankruptcy filings are, I mean, they're at a historically low level. We're down in Arizona over 80% from 2010 to 2022, right? What industry could survive that? The fact that if you're still practicing bankruptcy, the fact that you're still practicing is somewhat of a miracle. So, but you need ways to get more fees per case, right? Because it's not, will bankruptcy start to come back? Probably. A lot of people expect they will. Are we going to go back to 2010 levels by next year? Probably not, right? So if you want to be able to increase your fees per case and be able to increase your profit margins and be able to just have the work to do, right? A lot of my friends and colleagues, they're just not even at capacity of the amount of work that they could do with their current staff. Fill that capacity up with this student loan discharge work and learn how this attestation process works for federal loans. Learn how to discharge non-qualified private loans. Watch the prior videos and then work with us. If you're uncertain about how it goes, work with us. Go to studentloanrelief.us, fill out the landing page, put your name in there. One of the first things we do if you're a new referring attorney is reach out to you and learn with us, right? I'm holding this information close to the vest, as you can tell if you've watched these videos. We're willing to share with you how this works as we go through this process. Refer some cases. Let's go through some cases. Let's get some of your clients a discharge on their student loans. And if you want to try to take these cases in the future, once you gain some confidence, we're happy to hand that off to you and help you run with that.
Yeah, I mean, this is why we're creating these videos for our bankruptcy attorneys. We have hundreds of bankruptcy attorneys that use our services. They don't want to bring this in-house. They don't want to learn something else. This is Ken. You put your debtor's information right here, put your name right here, and you're going to fee share. You're going to generate, however you do it ethically, right? Whether it's fee share or referring attorney or whatever you mentioned earlier, Ken. But the beauty is you're hands off. As we mentioned in previous videos, you'll generate $400 to $500 in extra fees just by looking for the student loans we talked about, private, public, et cetera, et cetera. And this is all right here. And for those of you who'd like more marketing help, 720 System Strategies, we do everything from lead generation to we follow up with your leads. We generate Google reviews, and you have plenty of marketing development right here, absolutely free for you to look at. Ken, thank you for your time. Thank you for your insight. You've always been ahead of the curve, and this is just another example of you doing so.